So, what is the imparfait? Basically, the imparfait is a past tense in French. And we can think of it sort of as the English equivalent of was. I was eating. I was walking. And it is used for events and conditions without time barriers. Therefore, if you are creating a sentence and not specifying that the action has been completed or giving a general reference of time, you will use the imparfait. Some examples of this include age, states of mind, physical conditions, and the weather. Additionally, the imparfait is also used for habitual events. And there are certain imparfait trigger words. And when I say this, I mean words that if you see them being used in the past tense, it will probably be the imparfait. And there's a list of those below. So how do we form the imparfait? So first you're going to need the verb that you wish to use conjugated in the present tense in the new form. Okay, so once you have that conjugated, you're going to drop the ONS of that verb to get your stem. Then you will add the following endings in the table to that stem, and your verb will be in the imparfait. So for je, we have the ending AIS, tu, AIS, il, elle, on, AIT, nous, IONS, vous, IEZ, and il, elle, AIENT. And a good way to remember this is that if you have learned the conditional or when you learn the conditional, these are the same endings. However, there is one exception, and that's et. So instead of nous sommes, we simply just use E with an accent, T, as our stem. So for example, we can use étudier. So first, let's conjugate it in the present tense in the new form. Nous étudions. All right, now let's drop off that ONS to get our stem, étudie. All right, and now let's figure out what subject we're going to use and add our ending. So, j'étudiais. So in a complete sentence, au lycée, j'étudiais tous les jours. So let's do some examples. So for manger, ready, let's conjugate it in that present tense new form. Nous mangeons. All right, let's chop off our ONS for mange. And let's use it in a complete sentence with the subject je. À minuit, je mangeais de la glace. Okay, next, prendre. Nous prenons. Chop off that ONS ending. Pren. All right, and let's conjugate that in the new form using the imparfait. Mon pote et moi prenions un verre chaque week-end. All right, one more, two more actually, sorry. Faire, present tense using the new form. Nous faisons. Let's chop off that ONS ending. Fait. All right. Il faisait très chaud. And this is one of those examples using weather. And last but not least, let's use one with être. So, remember that this is the exception because nous in the present tense, as we know, is nous sommes. But we can't use that some really. We can't chop off an ONS ending. So we just use et with the accent. So let's conjugate that one using the il, elle subject. So ready? Les filles étaient mignons quand elles avaient 7 ans. All right? So some tips and review. Remember that the imparfait is used with events without time barriers. So let's go back real quick. So for example, for the weather one, il faisait très chaud. We don't indicate when the weather was very hot. We just know that it's a past tense event. This already happened and that the weather was hot. Okay, repetitive events without reference to when they began or ended. So these are those habitual actions I was talking about. So let's go back. Chaque weekend, every weekend, habitually happened in the past every weekend. So, like right here, we use the imparfait. And remember that this can be thought of as the French version of was or were. All right, let's go back. At midnight, I was eating ice cream. And one thing that can really start to get a little tricky is when the imparfait and the passé composé are used together because they can be used simultaneously. However, how I think of it and what really helps me is to think of the imparfait as the background information in the paragraph or story to decipher between the two tenses. So anything that does not advance the plot and that only gives background information is most likely going to be imparfait. And the sentences that advance the plot and are more of the action sentences will use the passé composé. All right? And that's all we have for this video. And thank you for learning the imparfait with me.